Not at working.
No action was taken in closed session. And now superintendent's update. This is
All
Madonna.
right, clearly I'm a little rusty with the owls, so my apologies. Just a few updates for you tonight. I think I shared last time that we had an in-person staff meeting for our staff housing 231 grant project. We had a great turnout for that. We have 2 meetings happening this week, virtual meetings, to gather interest and share with our staff about the process. So we will have 24 units available for move-in this June, which is phenomenal. So we're thrilled. We've had great interest. And so the more of our staff we can get informed, the better off, but we'll keep you updated on that. But two virtual meetings this week for that. This coming Tuesday, we have a teacher professional development day. I think Mr. Drummond will be sharing some details about what's happening then. Of course, Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day and our schools will be closed. We have a long weekend, and on the 27th, I think it's important, our next board meeting on the 27th, we are scheduling embedded into that meeting, a study session for you so we can get into the bond. We'll be inviting our bond counsel, our financial team to really understand how the finances of the bond works, and we'll start talking about those priority projects and what have you, now that we were able to pass Measure EE. So embedded within that regular meeting, we'll have a short meeting just to get some bare bones business done, and then spend time with our team around the bond program, which is very exciting. I may have some additional updates later today, but
Okay,
that's good
Thank
for
you.
now.
all right, our school presentation tonight is Santa Rita. We have the representative of Santa Rita. Welcome up.
Good evening, I'm Denise Callett, principal at Santa Rita. I'm so pleased. We've got 11 wonderful students with us tonight. We have Mr. Morris and Mr. Hazelton to kind of introduce us and get started.
Thank you so much.
Happy New Year and good evening, board and cabinet. Thank you, Principal Khaled. First of all, I just want to say that we are so proud of all of our students. If you enjoy anything that you see tonight, of course, you are welcome to see it in action in the classroom as well, open invitation. Myself and Mr. Hazelton will kind of talk about some teacher moves that we make, and then we will pass off the presentation to the stars of the show and have the students share kind of how we develop some of our habits and skills and mindsets about writing in the classroom. First, I just want to talk about the writing process and how we implement the Lucy Calkins units of studies. We use the writing process as we see with this diagram. I shared with the students, my dad wrote a book about the one-hit wonders, and once it got published, went right back to the revising process. So even though we think it's published, it's a process that continues. And a great thing about the units of study is it gives us multiple opportunities to practice these skills in different forms. And so it's really the constantly practicing that really we stress in the classroom. Even if we might not get to the publishing part of it, we still practice all the other skills in the writing process. And now for Mr. Hazelton.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Okay, so obviously we kind of focus on 2 things when we're teaching our writing units. One is teaching the students specific skills, and the other is focusing on author's craft. So the way that I think of it is skills teach them how to do something. For example, how to use dialogue, how to format a paragraph, what's a good conclusion. And author's craft is really teaching them why they do these things. So what effect do these decisions have on their readers? How does it make their writing stronger? And one of the focuses that we have at Santa Rita is obviously on differentiation, because we have students that are coming in at many different levels. And so this is kind of based on the principles of UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, where we really want to think backwards. What is the product that we want to get from students? And what do we do as teachers to get them there? And this is really making sure that we're meeting the needs of all learners in our class, regardless of language ability or, the skills that they're coming into. It could also be something that's thinking about how do we extend for the students who already know it and who are ready for more. And so these goals are always going to be individually developed. They come from data. So we do pre-assessments at the beginning of the year and throughout the year to kind of see where they are, and then we adjust our instruction based on that. And then I put up a list of all the kind of different types of differentiation that we do in the classroom. These are all things with UDL that are often available to all students, but what happens is as they start to do their iterations, some students need less or fewer of the scaffolds. So some students will always use the scaffold, and that's what they need to be able to deliver high quality work. Some students eventually do not need the scaffolds at all, and if anything, need even more challenge and push. And so it's just a way for us to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all learners. And now we're going to turn it over to the students, and they're going to discuss some of the different skills, mindsets, and habits that they have used over the course of this year to help improve their writing. So I'm going to bring up Michelle and Ani to discuss their planning process.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about planning by me and Michelle. And I'm gonna be talking about planning that we use while writing narratives. So first, we follow a precise sequence of events, which means we start at the beginning, then go towards the middle and finish at the end. Then we usually have limited time to finish any assignment we started. So we plan what we should have completed each day to make sure we have our assignment completed in time. Then we use research to add on to our work. Make sure we use reliable sources like Mozilla or Britannica or Music of Science. And sometimes we work at home to make sure we have our assignment completed in time.
So when beginning a essay, we always start with a guideline and a main idea to wrap our story around. Our teachers provide us with writing notebooks that also tie with the lessons that every day teach us, every day that they teach us. Like Ani said, we use verified sources to gain a grasp and perspective of what we are writing about.
Graham, Adam, and Rivers, or next presenters.
Thank you.
I'm Graham. I'm Adam. And we'll be presenting the outlines. So how do outlines help us write our story? So for narrative, we use the outlines to help us understand what order to write our story in. And what we do is there's usually like a little chart with like exposition and rising tension, etc. And we just write in the specific part into that section.
We also use break-tax pyramid, and break-tax pyramid helps us know what order the story goes in or the plot of the story. And so for expository writing, we use outlines for our essays.
In the outline, there's a section for every part of the essay, like the hook, quotes, details, or facts. You write the part that you want to share in a separate box, and then you copy and paste it into the outline so that you know where it goes. The first picture is a picture of the expository outline, and the second is a picture of the narrative. Next we have Lakshmi, Michelle, and Alex. So each part of the checklist is divided into different areas which focus on details on craft, of course the basic things like spelling, punctuation, etc. Of course, we also have each part of the story so we can make sure nothing misses it. And so these help us monitor our work and self-assess ourselves. So we know, oh, we need to do this, we didn't do this. So it's just a really good, helpful tool to help us set us on the path that we need to go.
So what are checklists? Checklists are used for many reasons in class. Starting with, it's a great way to self-assess ourselves so that we know what we need to improve on. Additionally, checklists allow us to receive clear feedback from our partners during peer editing time. They also help us identify mistakes and issues in our writing as we work toward a final draft. Lastly, checklists help us stay organized to make sure the writing piece flows smoothly.
So, okay, so as we have checklists, our goal for sixth grade is to have all the parts. That is our expectations, and having all the parts can ensure that that it flows nicely and is well put.
So our checklists are really effective at helping us set goals as well as a clear guideline. So not yet, starting to, and yes. So if you're at a not into, you can set a goal to be a yes, or if you're starting to, you can go to the yes. So it's just really easy. So, okay, I want that part, and that part to be at starting to, and I want this part to be at yes. So this just allows us to turn our work fully completed and say, okay, we have all the parts, and turn in your work as the best work it can be.
Next up, we have Brand Rivers.
We'll also be talking about peer reviews. And for peer reviews, what we do is we work with a peer and they're gonna read our essay. Then they give us comments of what we need to improve and what we did well. And it allows us to set goals next time for writing. And we also know what we need to fix and what we can keep on doing.
So comments allow you to understand what's missing from an essay or story, and so you have to fix those mistakes. So after that, you'll look over your comments and fix the mistakes in your story.
Show your teacher that you fixed your comments or mistakes by highlighting the things that you changed. In the first picture, there's someone getting a comment from others, and in the second picture, it's someone highlighting the one that next. Next we have Emmy, Iris, and Ellen.
So goal setting and so setting goals is important to be able to improve. So we use goals to improve. And goals for next assignments can help us understand and improve on one. So sometimes we set a precise goal on what we didn't do well on assignments to make sure we focus on these parts of assignments to do better next time instead of just focusing on what we already did well.
Feedback can help us understand what we need to improve on, yes.
But after every writing project that we do, we make sure to take note of what our next goal is for our next assignment in our documents. So some examples of our goals. So based on feedback I received, I still need to work on indenting and making proper paragraphs and spelling. I also have some examples for goals that I have, such as adding more detail, having a better overall message for my story, and also having a better conclusion.
I also have some goals that I have to work on. I have many goals related to finishing with my work on time and staying on task as I work. Next we have, moving.
So another thing that helps make our writing the best it can be is looking at examples. So over here, you can see on the board that for hooks, we looked at 4 examples. We have 2 of them on the board. And when we learned about adding interesting hooks about our writing, we looked at those 4 examples. We saw these 4 examples and looked at what we liked in them and what we disliked in them and used that and added it into our own writing.
For example, we quickly noticed that in example 4, there are many run-on sentences and it didn't really make sense. How do they know the volcano is going to erupt? Whereas in example 3, they had really great description and lots of inner thinking. Next we have question.
So another thing that we learned in our lessons is something called wrap it up, which is used at the end of your conclusion. So it's kind of like a final thought about the essay or whatever you're writing, and it's supposed to kind of show a message that was conveyed throughout the story, but the essay, but still, and it's kind of a new idea, but still connects to that.
Here we have 2 examples of wrap-it-ups at the end of an activism essay. Example 1 states, all in all, activism is important because it changes our world. Example 2 states, overall, activism is important not only because of the changes and real world problems it can solve, but also because it's a great way to explore yourself and understand what it is you truly care about. And example 1, to wrap it up, is less meaningful, very vague, and does not leave the reader with much to think about. In example 2, it is more detailed and connects the reader back to the rest of the essay. Additionally, this wrap it up leaves the reader with a thought to keep thinking about. Next up, we have Yana reading an excerpt from her own writing.
So this writing piece that I will be telling you an excerpt of is called Deserted Island. So in this specific writing assignment, we were writing about if we were stuck on a deserted island, either by ourselves or with a group of friends. In this case, I was stuck with a group of friends, and we needed to like work together to escape. Two of the girls wanted to leave us on the island and escape by themselves, but eventually they come back. In this part that I read, the main character figures out that like we still need to move on, and even without the character. Come on, with or without Addison, we need to sleep, I said to everyone. My tone was emotionless. It was as if the color gray was a voice. Everyone followed me into the tent, the sky now a dark navy yet again. This definitely wasn't how I expected the third day on the island to end, with a member of our group gone. We all silently went to bed, falling asleep one by one. 20 minutes later, everyone was snoring quietly. I took the chance and slowly crawled out of the wooden structure that for the past few days we had called home. The moon was a hole of light shining down into the ocean. I took a deep breath as I sat down on the shore, staring into the infinite horizon. I pulled my jacket tighter around me. It was cold at this time of night. What are we going to do? I muttered. A minute passed, then 2, then 3, and then 4. Before I knew it, I'd been on the shore for almost half an hour. I went back into the shelter, and not long afterwards, I was asleep along with everyone else. The next excerpt will be from Hannah.
Okay, so my excerpt is from a one-page fiction story called Pebbles. So basically, it's about this girl named Sammy, and she finds these really mean texts about her from her friend, and she doesn't know how to confront her about it. So I picked this story because during my writing, I usually struggle with being more like concise with my writing and cutting it down to only the most important part. So since the challenge of the story was to write this a fiction story that was only like a page or a little bit longer, I thought this challenged me. So suddenly I remembered something. Just a year ago, Sam and I were by the creek collecting pebbles. It was my idea. Let's make a pebble tower, my 11-year-old self exclaimed. Sammy was carefully stepping over the sand, not wanting to get her new shoes dirty. No, that's so boring, Sammy complained. Valeria slipped down to the creek, waving at us. She asked, what you guys doing? And now I'm making a tower of pebbles we collected. Okay, can I join? It sounds fun, Valeria had asked, smiling. She had one of those smiles where it feels like you're sharing a secret no one else knows about. Yeah, I'll do it too, Sammy announced. Wait, what? I thought you said it was boring. I told him but Sammy, you said it was boring. Don't be a baby, I'm doing it now, okay? She grunted. I remember, Sammy and Valeria left me and made their rock tower all the way down the creek. That's all I remember, just how that day ended. Their tower tall and steady, mine toppling over, with my spirits when Sammy left. It's over the stone tower Christmas Day, and I know what I need to do. So this is my excerpt. My excerpt is from my personal narrative. This story takes place like 4 or 5 years ago. When I was first moving to Turkey, I was excited to like make friends and stuff like that. This like writing project really pushed me to like do my best, adding detail, a plot, and like a description. So let me read the beginning. I opened my eyes to the vintage yellow light from the hallway shining into my room. It's so early yet, when I realized it's today. I hopped off my bed as fast as I could. My mom switched on the lights. It burned my eyes, but I was too excited to care about. Dad, do the people, this is my part in the middle. Dad, do the people in my class speak English, I asked. He hesitated. It's fine, you'll learn Turkish in no time. I started to panic, but they don't know English, because they don't really speak Turkish that well. I was panicking, and I didn't really know what to do. This is around in the ending, like after my first day. Like my brother leads me to the bus and drives home with us. I didn't like it at school. This isn't what I thought it would be. I said like I didn't really like it. I was so excited like in the beginning, but then at the end, it kind of reaches a climax and then it goes down to falling action. Next we have
Mine's kind of longer, so bear with me. So this story just says a basic summary of what happened before this. He escaped from a censorship with his crewmate Mike, and they become really good friends. But they discover a way to leave after a bit of time, after a long time. But he doesn't want to leave. But I picked this because I just think it shows the best by writing with emotions and details. And there's a multitude of different themes built into it: friendship, betrayal, transformation, change, the whole. Okay. It's not enough to get, but no, you want to stay with a stupid bear. The tears were flowing freely now. I was lost for words. All I want is a peaceful life. I'm happy here, but you want to take that away from me by feeling guilty. I spread my arms, looking to God. Mike's tears stopped flowing. His usually olive complexion was turning blue red. I could once tell his small details, but no more. I could tell his anger was enough to fill 1,000 toxic relationships. He was bearing his reality to me like an animal. Having lived on this island for so long, we were champions. I thought we were brothers. I thought you were going to admit me, but no. Instead, I pummeled angrily. His arm, even more muscle from the hard work on the iron, drew back. He slept. A single drop of blood ran down my cheek. All my emotions disappeared. All I felt was shock. In all our years, he had never hit me. The single drop of blood fell to the sand, coloring it with red. That drop symbolized our end. I closed my eyes and thought back to all our memories. Just as he said, we were like brothers. But for all the things I thought Mike would do, I would never think he would. I opened my eyes. Spoke to fake call. We're done. I walked away. I should have felt angry or frustrated, but all I felt was sadness and betrayal. Felt like the end of an era of Mike and I. Called after me. I hate you. It's on my heart. I hope you shut here. So I'm leaving. If you don't want to come, I'll leave you alone. I went to bed, knowing that when I woke up, he would be gone. So, thank you so much for listening to our dedication. If you have any questions, we would be delighted to answer.
You all did such a great job, and I thank you for your courage in reading your personal work to an entire audience. I think that was awesome. Such wonderful skills that you guys are learning that's going to help you beyond whatever you write in the future, but so many transferable skills. So kudos to you guys. All right, thank you. And if you all would like to go home, you may.
Can we do a picture with all the kids in the board?
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead and just line up behind this.
Yeah. You get to go behind the special desk.
I just
Oh, great. Oh, I missed you too, 6th grade.
Why don't we like spread over a little bit more? Yeah, so we're kind of towards the middle. There we go.
Can you stand behind us?
Yeah, okay.
We're just gonna be paparazzi and all that. No.
Thank you all. This crowd has a treat for all of you, so.
Okay.
Oh, I don't.
But I mean.
Thank you for those of you who are staying. We're gonna now move on to the consent calendar. Would any board members like to provide comment on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. Can I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Stella. Motion to approve the consent calendar as presented by Vladimir, seconded by Stella. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Employee request to address the board, Los Altos Teachers Association, Alan Schroeder. Welcome.
Well, I can't really follow that, but I'll take my notes and I'll do it. Thank you guys and good evening. Thank you for letting me address the board. So great to see it's a kind of a new panel here. It's very exciting. Okay, as I do, I've kept the notes in my phone to say exactly what I want to say, but I wanted to share with a little story because it got me thinking about what I want to share with the board today. And I was teaching computer science in second grade the other day, and I had a student say to me, Mrs. Schroeder, what company do you work for? And I was like, oh, I work for Los Altos School District. Like, this is where I work. And he goes, yeah, but like, this is like just fun, right? Like, what do you do with the rest of your time? And I was like, wow, like that it made me feel so good because I must be just exuding like that this is just joyful to me, like what we do is joyful. And it got me thinking about all my teacher colleagues. And so I wrote something because this just got me thinking about like what we see on the outside and then what happens behind the scenes. So I said, as I reflect on the remarkable work our educators do every day, it's important to acknowledge that what may appear effortless in the classroom is actually the result of immense dedication and skill. When you step into a teacher's classroom, you're witnessing more than just a lesson in progress. You're seeing the culmination of countless hours spent planning, preparing, and perfecting an environment that nurtures not only academic growth, but emotional safety and social well-being. Behind every lesson is a teacher's commitment to creating a space where every student feels supported and challenged, where rigor is met with compassion and joy of learning, and the joy of learning is palpable. Teachers craft experiences that balance expectations with encouragement, building both knowledge and confidence in each child. And we are incredibly grateful for the teachers who day in and day out put in the work to create environments that allow all students to thrive and continue to support them in their efforts to make education a fulfilling and transformative experience for every learner. And as I say we, I speak in terms of like our teachers union as well in partnership with our district. To that end, I would also like to thank the district negotiating team for working collaboratively with LATA to come to an agreement. We understand that you'll be voting on this ratification within the coming weeks. This agreement brings us as teachers closer to the middle of other competitive districts in their salaries. One of the things that makes Los Altos such a special place to send our children, and I say our because my children are here too, and I'm incredibly proud of that, is that teachers have historically stayed and parents get to know and get to count on those fabulous educators being a part of the school community for generations. It's a place where kids can come back to their elementary and middle schools and visit teachers who they know cared for them deeply. As we continue to ensure competitive salaries for our teachers, we ensure a quality of education that's unmatched. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have anyone from the California School Employees Association? No? Okay. Moving on. Right, to provide public comment on an agenda item, speaker cards are to be submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment begins. Your name will be announced when it is your turn to speak. Right, well, community comments. This time is reserved for members of the community and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agenda items, except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. Board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. Do we have any speakers? Okay. On to action and discussion items. Our first item is professional development update. Mr. Drummond.
I maybe I could ask for a better preface to
Yeah,
this.
it was so great.
The children we just heard speak. You've heard me speak about the LASD student experience before, and sometimes it's really hard to put into words what we mean when we say a student-centered experience or one that integrates social, emotional, academic, cognitive development. And the kids we just saw did, I think did such a good job of showing what we mean by that. The way they were doing the thinking about their thinking. Their honest reflection about who they were becoming as writers. All of that is about the way that teachers have set up this learning experience for them to truly develop as full people. So I'm going to talk about the professional development that we have done and will be doing with teachers for the remainder of the year. If you don't know, we have 2 on calendar professional development days for every teacher. And then in addition to that, this year we did a training day in the summer / start of the year. So they've had 3, and then in between those times is when teachers are working on implementing the strategies that they learned in professional development. So I'm going to talk about kind of where we've been and some of the strategies that teachers learned that are really leading to the type of experience that you saw kids talking about today. Last year, we started our work in the wheel with teachers, the student experience in those upper 2 positive developmental relationships and environments filled with safety and belonging. This year, we've made a transition to the next 2, rich learning experiences and the development of mindset, skills, and habits. And we've been calling those 2 things together deeper learning. And these 4 principles are really the things that drive deeper learning. And they are, this is gonna sound really familiar given what we just saw, but they're about kids owning the thinking. Kids are the ones asking the questions, doing the exploration, constructing their own knowledge. They're studying topics that matter to them. It's not just about developing knowledge, but about developing portable skills that they can use across lots of different work that they will do for the rest of their lives. That introduction to the principles of deeper learning is what we did with teachers in August, September. And then at our October professional development day, we really started to explore this question: how can I cultivate deeper learning for all students in my classroom? And it started, I think this is an important concept to kind of bring to light as we start to talk about what teachers are doing in classrooms and what they're learning about teaching and learning. Started by talking about the idea of productive struggle. We all learn by struggling with something and making sense of it and becoming more confident in that thing. This image, The Learning Pit by James Nottingham, kind of describes that, going from comfort and understanding into an area of struggle and I'm not sure how to do this, and then with support and guidance, becoming confident in that thing. We've all had experiences we've learned that. So our goal in deeper learning is to put kids in highly supportive yet opportunities to struggle so that they can learn and develop. We launched this is the frame. We launched teachers in October into 5 teaching moves that really support this development for kids. Ways that teachers can help kids be the owners of their learning. And I'm going to talk about these 5 in just a little bit of detail, because I think they'll give you a bit of a better sense of what we mean when we're talking about, and we use that phrase, deeper learning. The first is provocation. And as its name implies, it's about provoking curiosity, questions, interests, things that kids want to find answers to. It's often used as an entry point to learning, and it might be something like a short video, a thought-provoking poem, a set of objects that kids are exploring that they might be thinking about how, why, when they might be used, a map, a news article, something that's going to get the kids thinking, and it usually is open-ended enough that it gets their minds kind of cooking on something new and interesting and novel for them. Teachers learned to select provocations that connect to students' lives and interests, are open-ended, provide a challenge, and are kind of different from each other, so they don't encounter the same thing over and over again. They're an incredibly useful way of sparking kids' curiosity. The next thing we learned about is questioning. And this is kind of at the heart of authentic inquiry. Teachers are becoming more and more skilled, our teachers are becoming more and more skilled at doing two things. One is asking the right questions that gets kids to think for themselves, not being told how to think or what to think, but more thinking of their own questions and hypotheses about what the answer might be. And so thinking about how teachers ask open-ended questions is one part. And another part is really establishing a culture for questioning in the classroom where kids are also asking and answering the questions. Those become a really important part of deep learning. When you see kids who have really developed their own knowledge of themselves as learners, it often is connected to the idea that they know how to ask and answer questions. And so that is one skill that we're working on, additional skill we're working on with teachers connected to deeper learning. All of us have had the experience of coming to some new understanding because we've had a worthwhile conversation with somebody who was thinking about the topic differently than we were thinking about it. And this is one of the hallmarks of deeper learning classroom is that there's lots of discussion that is meaningful and relevant. And so our teachers are learning, continue to learn about talk protocols. And they're basically a structured way of putting kids in a situation where they're given support to have meaningful conversations about the things that they're learning. They learn that having an academic conversation is more than just me saying my idea and you saying your disconnected idea, but that the purpose of that type of conversation is to build new knowledge together. It requires listening to each other and building on each other's ideas, respectfully disagreeing or respectfully agreeing. And so kids are learning through these talk protocols how to have that type of conversation with each other. Teachers learned about, and you saw a lot of this today, opportunities for kids to engage in a metacognitive process. So includes things like you saw kids today looking at checklists and considering for themselves, how am I doing on this thing? And where do I need to grow next? And who am I becoming as a writer? We want those kinds of things for kids to really get to know themselves as learners and as humans. And so teachers are learning different strategies to do this for kids. In particular, we've drawn from the Harvard Graduate School of Education's Project Zero, which has a series of thinking routines for things like helping kids to, routines for helping kids to develop their own opinion about a topic, or to think about how things have changed over time, or connect new ideas to something that they already know, and then think about, well, what does that mean? So there are lots and lots of examples of this, but those are just a few of how kids are taking some of these processes and developing their own metacognition skills. Saw really good examples of that today. The fifth and final one I'll talk about in detail today is documenting learning. This is different. I'm sure you've all been into classrooms where you see like a gallery of kids work on the wall. This is a little bit different than that. When a class engages in learning about a new topic together, they might start a wall like this one. And I know you can't see it back there, but there's a place on here that has the class's question, which is, how can we produce electrical energy that helps our society and is environmentally safe? And you might envision that this wall is built over time as the class is working through the pieces that will help them answer that question and perhaps even think about solutions that could be implemented in the world. So there's a chart there called the KWL chart with a place for kids to talk about and list, do we already know collectively? What do we already know? That's the K part. And then another part for the class to write, the W, what do we want to learn? Which has their questions on it. And then the L part, what did we learn? And You'll see that also there's places to keep track of some key vocabulary that they're learning as they go. It gives them an opportunity to go back and retell the story of what they've been learning together. And also go back to have a reference to the things they've been learning. So when they are engaged in those great conversations, they have a reference point. You think, okay, yeah, we learned that. Here's the vocabulary word that I could use in this, and that sort of thing. It becomes much more than just a gallery of products, but more as a tool to really support learning and help kids tell the story of the learning that happens in their class. And we saw some of that today too. Some documentation of the tools kids have been using and the writing. As we move on to our January PD Day, we'll be introducing 5 new moves for deeper learning to teachers. Very briefly, the authentic tasks have to do with the work that's really meaningful and challenging for kids and what we're asking kids to do and think about and create. Offering students choice both in what they learn, how they learn, and how they show what they learn. Offering opportunities for kids to exhibit their learning. We saw an example of that tonight. An opportunity for kids to get feedback from each other and from their teacher and make revisions. And then finally, teachers will be learning more about how to plan for lessons where the C's are integrated. And that is really what is at the heart of our portrait of a learner, is that the competencies, those C's, are the skills that kids will carry on with them beyond just any content area, but that can be portable and applied. What we call oftentimes our future ready skills that we're intentionally building for kids. And so teachers will continue to have that learning too. Sarah Erlinger is not here tonight, but I think it is worth mentioning that Sarah has done so much curation for the work we're doing around deeper learning. And she actually has been selected from a large pool of folks to be a presenter at this year's annual Deeper Learning Conference at High Graduate School of Education. So she'll be going and doing that and re-presenting many of the things that she's been working on with folks in LASD around. We're really proud of the work that we are doing with teachers this year around deeper learning and professional development. So excited for the kinds of things that we're saying in classrooms to continue.
Oh.
Need to
Thank you.
answer questions.
Are there any clarifying questions from the board before we go to public comment? Any public comment? Okay, let's open it up for board discussion. Who'd like to start?
I just wanted to thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really useful information, and I was looking at that KWL and I thought, oh, that could help us with our study sessions to organize, you know, what we're learning,
Yeah.
the decisions we need to make. Yeah.
So I was pleased that you mentioned Project Zero, because I happen to be reading about a sort of sub-project of Project Zero called Project Spectrum. And that was how do you design assessments for 4-year-olds? And they talked about the example of a kid who refused to take the Stanford Binet test, which they wanted to. So then what they did was they essentially created open-ended tasks that the kids could do. They could do it in different ways, and it pulled apart sort of different skills or knowledge that the kids had. That was for 4-year-olds, right? So this is for much older kids and
4-year-olds.
and 4-year-olds, yeah, sure, yeah. And so I thought it was interesting that there was a tie-in with what I was looking at right now.
There are more and more organizations and people in our education world who are thinking about teaching and learning in this way, both as a way to accelerate learning for kids who need extra challenge, but also are seeing that this is the way that we really achieve equity, is by providing all kids authentic challenge. in meaningful ways, no matter whether they're 4 or 24. You get them there. Yeah.
One more question. So this is, the sort of direction our professional development is in. Where the hiccups been in putting this out?
Well, one of the challenges in the design phase, and I talked a little bit about Sarah, but the wealth of information that's out there and curating it to match what, like, our context, what we are, where we've been, what training our teachers have already had, what do our students really need, and how do you select the right things? For example, like, there are many organizations doing things kind of like Project Zero is doing, but how do we land on this is what we want to share with teachers? I think some of it is curation, is a true challenge. Another, I mean, you hear many times from our teacher groups is that it takes time to plan really engaging, meaningful lessons for kids. And so continuing to think about how we support teachers in that work, I think is another spot for us to work on.
Have there been teachers who have had more difficulty adjusting to this kind of approach?
Teaching in a really student-centered way is different than how many of us were taught, right? We have teachers who are incredibly innovative and eager to be student-centered and learn. And with anything that we do, there's a learning curve for people. But we see our teachers making really great progress. We go into classrooms and things look different in our classrooms than they did a year ago. Much different than 2 years ago.
Or 40 years ago, 50 years
Sure, yes,
ago?
yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I have to say, every time you come up and give a presentation, I feel like I learned something more about the art of teaching.
Well, that's a high compliment.
No,
Thank you.
really, took a lot of notes. Oh, and please congratulate Sarah for us.
Yeah, we're
That's
very
really
proud,
quite
Sarah.
an experience. It makes me so proud that LASD is such a leader in the education world. So, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Greg. You know what
thank you.
what I love about what you're doing, this whole thing, is without saying so, you're nurturing a growth mindset in our kids. And I think that's so important for their lifelong success and achievement. And it really couldn't have timed it better, like with Santa Rita and what they were doing, and then we would like show those examples.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Okay. That's gonna be a tough one to follow, but I think Eric will try. The annual solar project performance.
I believe saving energy is very important to the district. As you know, energy is one of our top costs that hit our general fund. And if we can lower energy costs, it's more money available, as Alex mentioned, about for salaries for our hardworking employees. So David Burke is here with Terra Verde. He's gonna give our annual solar performance. What a great intro. You ready?
Right?
All right, thank you, David.
I think my toughest act to follow was an interactive Legos demonstration where
Oh,
board members, community members, and students were all interacting, and then I got to talk about kilowatts and dollars, but here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me. David Burdick, Terra Verde Energy. We're a team of advisors who have supported this district for many, many years. We serve as independent advisors for the business and finance and physics folks who help public agencies develop, implement, and oversee energy resources on their facilities. My team and I oversee 600 now solar and battery facilities operating across the state of California for school districts, water utilities, local governments. And we've been a part of your story for many, many years, helped test the thesis of whether or not solar would work for this district and under what kind of scale and how to bring the dollars together and how to orchestrate those resources once they were in play. As you may or may not be aware, your facilities that you maybe park underneath on a regular basis, they're owned and operated by a company, Forefront, who we oversee and monitor on your behalf. We monitor your systems every day. We make sure that your sites are performing as they should, and when they're not, because they're electrical equipment, they have issues. We make sure that technicians are being dispatched and then on a regular basis provide reporting like what you'll see tonight. So the district can see with transparency what's actually going on out there in solar land. So today I'm just presenting a brief executive summary of a far more detailed report. Every quarter we provide an operational report that shows you for each site, here's how much power was produced by your solar facilities. Here's how much should have been produced based on the actual weather conditions. And then we'll show you how energy is being used at the sites, and we'll talk about those trends in this report. But at the conclusion of every fiscal year, we do a financial audit where we actually reverse engineer what your bills would have been without your solar using the rate schedules for your local utility. So we can actually quantify, there were all these dollars we were talking about saving once the project was kind of a twinkle in the eye of the district. What actually did the district harvest in terms of savings? And those results are what we'll be showing you today. Quick storytelling around your portfolio. So these systems all came online back in 2018. They're spread across these 9 different locations, all roughly the same 100 to 200 kilowatt size. You're very familiar with these shade structures and kind of the look and feel of them. But they are deployed under a third-party ownership agreement. The district pays for the power that's being produced by these facilities, but at a rate lower than what you would have been paying to the utility. That margin is what creates the economic value for the district. So in fiscal years 23-24, how did the portfolio perform? Not an A+, could be better, but at 95% of weather adjusted expectations, this is relatively strong performance. In terms of your peer analysis, this really outperforms a lot of school districts who have solar facilities with third-party owners. When districts own their facilities, you have direct rights to dispatch technicians. And if there's an issue, you can get out there and fix it. With many districts who deploy projects with third-party owners, that's kind of one of the risks you take is you don't own that facility, so you can't touch it. And if it has an outage, you got to get on the phone and call the guys to come out and fix your stuff. And that's part of why you engage us, is to make sure. Right now you have 2 inverter outages, one at Block and one at Egan. And we're in the midst of making sure that Forefront's out there doing their job. Many districts who deploy facilities with third-party owners, they see performance in the 50%, 60%, 80%. So at 95%, this is a good number, but we push for better. You can see here the trend line. It's to some degree overly complicated, but for each month, there's 3 different bars showing you with the blue line what we would have expected based on typical weather patterns. So looking at a rolling average of 10-year weather for this community, what should we have seen? The yellow bar shows actual weather conditions for that month, and then the green bar shows actual conditions. So you can see, for example, in July, everything pretty much trended as expected. We overperformed a little bit in August, but you can see in those winter months that there was some marginal underperformance with the systems kind of regaining capacity as expectations, to expectations back when we get to the summer months. Electricity usage has been a common conversation for the district, especially once those solar projects were installed. Subsequently, the EV charging was deployed throughout the site and energy usage did jump kind of more broadly for the district. This is a very common story within the state of California. We're using more and more devices and more, even though we invest in efficiencies, we're just using more electricity. And so your usage has jumped. You can see here the top of that green line shows each month how many kilowatt hours you consumed across these campuses. That compares to the top of that blue line, which is what you were using before those solar panels were installed. So back in 2018, again, that's quite a ways back, you were using less electricity. You're using more now. You're using 34% less from the utility than you were using previously. So you're reducing your usage from the utility, but your usage is up by 17%, nearly 18%. Over the course of fiscal year 23-24. All right, enough about kilowatt hours, let's talk about dollars. So on the left side of this table, there's a pro forma projection. This was the financial analysis provided by Terra Verde back in 2016 before these projects were deployed, when Board approved these projects for deployment. We put forward a forward rolling projection, conservative and modest, that would be of what the district could expect financially from these systems. We told you back then that you would expect to see some $600,000 in avoided cost of electricity. That's just raw bill savings. You were gonna make PPA payments to somebody for that project, and those PPA payments were calculated at that time to be 360 grand. You'd be paying somebody like us, and you are paying us to manage and oversee and orchestrate this program at $26,000. So the net result was expected to be some $200,000. You can see the expense rates for the PPA payments and asset management services are right in line with expectations. What is significantly higher is that avoided cost of electricity number, and that's because your cost per kilowatt hour is much higher than we had projected. And that's partly by design, because we're independent advisors and not a solar company. When we look at forward-looking projections for financial investments for public agencies, we use very modest assumptions around the escalation of utility rates, typically somewhere in the 2 to 3% range. And boy, if we could go lock down in perpetuity 2 to 3% escalator with your utility, everyone would jump on that now. So part of this is to be expected, but I mean, we've seen fantastic rate increases across the state. And so that means every kilowatt hour you're not buying from your solar facility has become fantastically more expensive. So I'm sure that your general fund is seeing impacts to that effect. But your solar facilities harvested $622,000 of bill savings, meaning had the district not deployed these solar facilities, your general fund would have seen an increase of $600,000 in costs this last fiscal year. I think that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any clarifying questions from the board before we go to non-existent public comment? Alex, would you like to make public comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the board?
I have just a couple of comments. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Actually, a couple of comments for Eric. One is just a question about the your vehicle charging. Because I'm not sure that we've ever gotten a sort of an accounting of sort of the cost and usage and all the rest of that stuff. So I would like to see that at some point. I sort of, in my own sense, like when we first put the chargers in, it was part of a general like greater good push to like make car charging available. But I feel like now that chargers are cheap and everybody's putting them in, I feel like we should take a closer look at that, especially since it's a significant percentage of our electrical use on campuses, just to make sure that we certainly shouldn't be spending money on it except as a benefit to staff. And maybe we could even be making more money for we increase those rates. And then the other question was whether we should consider, especially now that we've passed a bond. I remember when we started this program, there was provision for buying out Forefront down the road, which we obviously didn't have money for at the time. Now that we have money, I wonder if we're going to consider looking at doing that.
One of the things is looking at the cost benefit of buying out a power purchasing agreement early. So there's a significant cost. We have been kind of talking a little bit about it. We haven't done a full analysis, but we can.
Is there a sunset? What's the
provisions of most agreements, you have periods when you can buy the deal out, typically at the end of the first 5 or 6 operational years, which you're approaching. And Eric and I have had some conversation about this, and I've got notes. So we could certainly address that on the district's behalf, but typically at the 6th operational anniversary date and 10th and 15th and 20th are usually your entry points. Typically, there's a stated termination value at that stage, but your pricing will be based on a fair market valuation, which in many cases can come in 20% higher than what that valuation is. So it's not a straightforward transaction.
Gotcha.
There are some material benefits and ways to think about it. If you do have bond money that can be appropriated for this purchase, you're basically wiping out that $350,000 a year of your general fund expenditure. So you're getting all of the savings at a marginal expense. There are operating costs. Right now, they're paying for all of the technicians to come out annually to make sure that they're being maintained. The district would need to pick that up. There is equipment replacement coming for your facilities, not for the panels. Those should be there for the next 30 years, but the inverters themselves should be replaced probably in the next 5 to 10 years, and that will not be cheap. So all of that stuff that we can help you account for, but it's a pretty, I'd say a popular idea to take bond money or other funds, leverage that to help alleviate the general fund's pressures from solar panels.
Is there a term to the power purchase agreement? Like, does it?
There is,
expire
typically
at
it's
some
20
point?
to 25 years. At the end of it, you'll either be able to renew and extend, or you can tell them to beat feet, take their stuff, and then you can build something else.
But the panels are theirs.
They are theirs. At the end of a 20-year term, you're likely horse trading over what's the price gonna be for them to, to transition this over. We have had success renegotiating PPAs, amending terms such as those buyout provisions and or managing the buyout of these power purchase agreements. So at the district's, pleasure, we can help study this, manage this, anything we do.
So is the inverter replacement you're talking about under the current agreement that they cover that?
Yeah,
We
the
don't.
full operating cost is their responsibility. Yes.
Thank
The tough thing is the inverters won't last as long as the panels.
That's right. They're typically 10 to 15-year expected useful life for your equipment, probably pushing way closer to 15. Moderate climate, string inverters up underneath carports. There's plenty of equipment that's larger legacy. It's installed out in the baking sun. It's in big open fields where it's being exposed to higher temperatures and lots of soiling and critters that like to destroy power electronics. So my suspicions are it'll be 15 years. You can do the math from 2018. So we're talking about 2033. Is that the math? So it's a little ways out.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right, great, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Right,
One of the items that you brought up was, our usages of, I think the EV charging, we'll do analysis of that, but also part of Measure E is there's a lot of aging infrastructure. We have old HVAC units, old that are not LED, so those very inefficient systems. So by doing some modernization of school campuses, we'll get some savings also in electricity. So those are things, as you know, lighting is more efficient. You can now buy starting January 1st. It wasn't gonna be one of my comments, but starting January 1st, you can buy compact fluorescent light tubes or bulbs. So we've done some stocking up, but all these tubes, once they go out, won't be able to replace them. So those are just some new things to think about. But as we roll out Measure E, having more efficient HVAC and lighting is very important.
thank you for that. Okay, we're gonna move on to the audited financial report. Eric will present the 2023-24 audited financial report. And this is an action item tonight.
Sure, Siobhan Associates is our auditor and they were unable to be here tonight. They had our audit completed. They were a little behind. We asked the county for an extension. So tonight we're asking the board to accept the audit for the 23-24 fiscal year. Good news, there are no findings, no issues, if anything, in our audit. Our net position increased by about $10 million. Our fund balances and our major funds increased by about $7 million. Mostly on the restricted side of the house. And I have to answer any questions you have, but good news, no audit findings. The bond audit will be completed by the end of February and we'll be presenting that to the Bond Oversight Committee in the March meeting. So this is an action item to approve the 23-24 audit.
Great. Any public comments? Seeing none, all right, would any board members like to provide comment on this item? Okay, great. Then may I get a motion to approve the audited financial report as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Motion to approve the audited financial report as presented tonight by Vladimir, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Great, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Okay. We're moving on to item 4, resolution number 24/25-11, accounting of developer fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year.
Sure. Last November, district staff presented the annual developer fee summary. And tonight we have the audited summary, but then also the state has changed some reporting guidelines. As you know, California We'll have new guidelines starting last January, so we were required to post this on our website, which we did so before the end of the year. But we were unable to bring this item to the board by the December 16th meeting, so we're asking the board to approve resolution 2425-11. There has been a slight revision on it. If you go to into the exhibit. In the back, we made sure on page exhibit. Talks about expenditures. And we made it very clear that the expenditures of $1.1 million is for portable classrooms for Bullis Charter School and various district school sites. The 1.1 million, about 886,000 are dedicated for Bullis Charter School. So we want to make sure that a little bit clear. Thank you for pointing that out. And then so this is an action item. So we're asking the board to approve resolution 2425-11 regarding the accounting and development fees in the annual development report and 5-year findings.
Thank you. No one for public comment. Close public comment. Any clarifying questions for Eric on this? No? Any further board discussion? Just want to give you all a chance. Please. Okay, seeing none. May I get a motion to approve resolution number 24/25-11, accounting of developer fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year.
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. May I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Stella. Motion to approve resolution 24/25-11, accounting of developer fees for the 2023-24 fiscal year was made by Vladimir and seconded by Stella. There's no further board discussion. Because this is a resolution, we'll take a roll call vote. Brian?
Aye.
Vladimir?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Stella?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Eric, it's back to you again.
Yes.
Appointments to the Measure and Citizens Oversight Committee.
Yes, we're excited to have 3 new members to ask the board to approve tonight for Measure N, for the Citizens Oversight Committee. It will fill 2 roles. One will be 2 parents that are open spots, and then we also have a local business owner, which is great. And then we're still looking for a member of a taxpayer association. So if you know any members of local or federal or national taxpayer association, we welcome that to the committee. Measure N Oversight Committee is part of a Prop 39 requirement. And now that Measure EE is passed, we will be bringing a resolution to certify the election in the next couple of board meetings. And then part of that will also be, we will have to establish within 60 days the Measure EE Oversight Committee. And the idea is many districts do that have overlapping bonds. Measure EE and Measure N Oversight Committee can oversee 2 different bonds. And then the only thing we'll have to do is you have to be staggering on their terms, because they could be on both committees, but you'll have to stagger when they started for each committee. And then the other things, they'll have separate financial reporting requirements. So we'll be bringing that to the board in upcoming board meetings. And so tonight we're asking the board to approve 3 new members for the bond oversight committee, Measure N.
Okay, great, thank you. Any clarifying questions? Any public comment? No. Any further board discussion? Okay. May I get a motion to approve the appointments of Melissa Bryant Neal, Mitra Loras Poor, and Uyen Win to the Measure and Citizens Oversight Committee?
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Motion to approve the appointments of Melissa Bryant Neal, Mitra Loras Poor, and Uyen Win to the Measure and Citizens Oversight Committee, made by Vladimir, seconded by Brian. All in favor? Any opposed? Great, motion passes unanimously, and congratulations to Melissa, Mitra, and Uyen.
Thank you to our
Yeah.
board for helping us recruit. So thank
Oh,
you.
yes. I saw your names on the references. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Okay, moving on to 2025 board committees and appointments. The Board of Trustees will discuss and consider approving the committee and appointment assignments for the 2025 calendar year.
Yes, so thank you. I think after the last meeting, Marcy asked you all to give your areas of interest for the different committees. We had a lot of overlaps. The one Shelley and I met earlier or a little bit later last week, we kind of divvied them up. And so tonight before you is a draft based on, input, and I think it's an opportunity to discuss if there's something. We tried to look at balance, we tried to look at new trustees and more veteran trustees, skill sets, and tonight we're hoping to approve the board committees.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Board? You've all had a chance to look over your committee assignments. Excellent. I don't think we have any requests for public comment. So, no further discussion. Okay. May I get a motion to approve? You did have discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Stella and Jimmy, you have to work with me on a couple of committees there. Just as a heads up, the city committees, the two Los Altos and Los Altos Hills committees, nothing has happened in the past couple of years there, that's worth it. And the county committee on school district organization, once a year, I have to sign something and send it to them. So the only one that actually has any sort of work to do is the budget review committee. That's all.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the 2025 board committees and appointments?
So moved.
Thank you, Vladimir. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stella. Motion to approve the is there any further board discussion? Sorry. Motion to approve the 2025 board committees and appointments was made by Vladimir, seconded by Stella. All in favor? Any opposed? Great. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you everyone for stepping up and volunteering. Right, on to the 2025-26 district calendar.
So before you tonight is a first read, so for discussion, the district calendar, and we had a little error in uploading the correct one, but the correct one is uploaded for the public, and hopefully you were able to see that as well. This went through our typical process. We usually wait for the high school district to approve their calendar, and then we meet with a group of teachers and classified staff to review the calendar for next year to see if there are any changes or desired changes. So in front of you is pretty typical calendar adjusted for our purposes as an elementary district. So happy to answer any questions you might have. It gives the public, this is always one of the most requested parent things that they're looking for. When is school going to start and when are my kids going to get out to school or out of school? So it will be posted for the public, and it will come back to our next meeting for you for approval.
Great. Thank you. Does anyone have any clarifying questions for Sandra? Okay.
I have
Oh,
one,
yes.
actually. What is the March minimum day? So we've historically had 2 minimum days for years and years and years. At different times, those have been different things. So up until recently, those were grade level days where we would bring teachers together to work at their grade levels. More recently, we worked with LATA for that to be teacher directed time. So twice a year, and we kind of coordinate with them the best time for those near report cards or grading periods. So that is really teacher directed time for them. We don't meet in our professional learning communities on that particular Thursday, just twice a year. Yeah.
Any other clarifying questions?
Just as a clarifying question, does that need to be a Thursday, that PK day?
Does it need to be a Thursday? No, and we've landed on Thursdays because every Thursday we have release,
It's early
early
release.
release. And so we thought it might be just easier for families to come a little bit earlier as opposed to having an early release and then another day of the week.
Right, so it's less disruptive.
Yes.
Yeah.
We worry about doing things on Fridays like that because then people may just not show up for school at all.
No, I just noticed it's the one, it jumped out to me as like the
Yeah.
one where the high school has like half days, the Tuesday, Wednesday of that week, and then we've got half day on Thursday, but I think it makes more sense to not disrupt everybody for the sake of those with kids in middle school.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I don't see anyone for public comment. Would any board members like to provide any further comments on this agenda item? Okay, thank you. On to board and administration comments. This time is for the board and administration to report on non-agenda items such as committee reports, school activities, legislation, and future agendas. Carrie, you want to start us off?
Sure. Some quick negotiations update. You heard from Alex this evening that the district has reached a tentative agreement with the Los Altos Teachers Association. We're very proud of that collaboration. We look forward to both Melissa Powell, Chief Negotiator for LATA, and I coming to the board meeting next time with that tentative agreement for your consideration. I also wanted to mention that our cabinet team has been conducting listening sessions at each of our schools with staff. And they've been really well attended. We're coming in during their lunchtime, so they're warming up lunch in the microwave and they're sitting with us and talking with us about, what's working, what celebrations, what their pain points are, what challenges that they're having. And we talked a lot about the student experience here in LASD. We care about our staff experience as well. So that's been very helpful. I think we have 2 more to do, and then we've done online schools, but I just wanted to mention that to the board. And they all appreciate how supportive you all. So thank you for your support.
Well, thank you for doing that. Eric?
I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes.
And hope everyone has a great year, and like Carrie mentioned, it feels great to work for a district. We have a very supportive board, and we're very collaborative when we're all together, and it speaks volumes of all the great work that we can get done because we have that support. So thank you. The only thing I have is next Tuesday, I'll be traveling to Sacramento to listen to the governor's proposal. And school services will have their workshop on Tuesday morning from 9 to 12. And so we'll be able to bring back some things. Again, a lot of things that happen in Sacramento don't directly impact us, but there's talk about maybe some of the one-time grants that was clawed back, that we might get some of that back. So we'll just see how the proposal again. We won't know until the state adopts their budget. And usually that's after we adopt ours. So we'll have to make some reasonable assumptions, but we'll bring back information. And we'll try to have something, a couple slides for the board to present that at the January 27th meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Could just add that this Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, Jim and I are going to visit one of the schools. If anybody else wants to join at that time, please let me know. And Friday morning at 8:45, Stella and I'm not naming the schools because I haven't talked with principals yet. It's arranged, but it will be, but Stella and I are gonna go Friday morning at 8:45 until about recess time. So if any of you are available on those days, we'd love to bring you and showcase all the great things happening at our school sites.
Start with you, Brian.
Sure. I'll second the Happy New Year and just mention, since we've updated people before, but hadn't mentioned it tonight, that the County Board of Education and BCS have come to an agreement on an MOU. So they officially have a charter renewal, although the letter that they sent, I believe, to their community was still pretty annoyed, and they seem to be implied to me that they're continuing with their litigation, but they will at least be operating next year as far as we can tell.
The next 5 years.
Yeah, sure.
Gladly? Stella?
Oh, well, speaking of site visits, back in December, I did go to attend a presentation at Block for the Peer Tutors Program with Jennifer Kiker, and that was really great just to hear the students talk about how they've been working with their the buddies that they've been assigned to.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I don't have any comments. I just wanted to acknowledge what's happening in Southern California, and that our hearts go out to the families and down there. Happy New Year, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.